All right. Sorry about that. So it took a minute for me to get that up. Um, so there are a few reasons today because this is an important day for us. I think to start with June 19th, around 150 years back, there was a big step towards humanity which was taken today.
Recording in progress.
I didn't plan it that way, but it simply turns out that this is an important day in the service of humanity, and this conversation becomes even more important or engaging. Number two, I'm very, very pleased to introduce Leadership at Humanity today. So we've been working on this for a while. I have my colleagues on the call who've been partnering with me to really shape this whole thinking around humanity in business leadership. And I am excited to introduce the concept today to the team and share a little bit, not a lot, about what it is and what we intend to do and what our focus is going to be. So a big day from that perspective. But then more importantly, it's a very engaging conversation with Mark, which to my mind is going to be the highlight of this next hour and 15 minutes. A bit about Mark, and I'm not going to, Isabel, introduce Mark with all the details, and I don't want to take that away from you. But Mark, I met him just a couple of months back, thanks to Isabel, who introduced us. And he already has had a huge impact on me. Every conversation, every dialogue, every touch point we have had in the last 2 months has left me with a feeling that Mark brings a level of calmness, a level of maturity and depth to the topic of personal transformation, which in my long career across the globe, I've not come across very many leaders like Mark. So it's our privilege to actually have Mark, who's like at 5 a.m. in California, joining us for this dialogue. And I feel privileged that we have Mark leading the conversation today. A bit about Isabel. Isabel is part of Leadership at Humanity community. And Isabel and I go a long time back, close to 9 years. I've seen and observed Isabel grow into this very deep, very reflective and high integrity leader who has worked with multiple organizations to transform and support them, and is a coach who's supporting a lot of individual leaders who are, some of those are on this call, to lead a better quality life. Uh, Another aspect of Isabel is that she's lived in 8 countries and speaks 5 languages. So she's a true epitome or reflection of what diversity needs to be. And I'm so pleased to have Isabel lead this conversation with Mark later today. So very quickly then, what is the plan? How do we plan the next hour and 15 minutes? So I'll probably take around first 15 minutes of the session to give you a sense of what is Leadership at Humanity all about. And then I'll be inviting Isabel to lead the conversation with Mark. So it's a dialogue. Isabel is going to guide the conversation, but essentially it's for us to really engage with Mark and talk about or know more about personal transformation. We have some time planned for a Q&A with Mark. So feel free to bring up your questions, use the dialog box. So I will do the job in the background, consolidate those questions and bring it to Isabel, who will raise those with Mark. Like in our previous conversations like this, those questions which we are not able to address during this time, I'll make sure we follow up with Mark and we come back to you with his responses. And then finally, I'll probably take 5 minutes to close and talk about the next steps and the further conversations which we are planning. So few of the logistics I want to get out of the way. One, keep your mics on mute. So I know we are in some exciting places actually taking this call, so there could be some background sounds which could be distracting. So keep it on mute if you're not speaking. If you have a question, by all means, please unmute and raise those questions. Use the comment box or comment section to bring up your questions. So I'll keep monitoring those, the dialog box, and bring up those questions to Isabel, who will bring up in the conversation with Mark. Just a reminder, it's a dialogue. So it's not a one-way discourse from Mark to all of us. It's a conversation with him. So use this time, enjoy the discussion, bring up anything which comes to your mind in terms of or link to personal transformation, how we can evolve and change and be a better human being every day. And finally, I'm recording the session. At the end of the session, I have my colleague, Divya Mohan, who's on the call, part of the Leadership at Humanity community. Divya will come back to you with the recording of the session so you can watch it at your leisure. So it's a great session. We are expecting over 100 participants from 25 different countries and 11 time zones. How cool is that? I mean, having a community which is connected through a shared purpose of humanity coming together for a dialogue like this. So first, a huge, huge thanks to you. I know it's a Saturday. I know it's, family commitments, personal time, especially in the current days when we are sitting in front of these screens almost all the time. This needs a different level of commitment to be present. So my request again, please put your mics on mute. So big thanks to you. And now I will very quickly dive into Leadership at Humanity, giving you a brief sense of what this concept is all about, how it originated, what we intend to do, and then hand it over to Isabel. So first, starting with why this is relevant today. And, I'm kind of observing and looking at leaders, working with leaders and trying to figure out what makes some people stand out and make a bigger impact than others all my career, working across the continents, different roles, different jobs. But I've never seen the relevance of leadership so prominent in the delivery of the business as it is today. So what's happening? Our world is becoming increasingly unpredictable. Businesses are becoming complex. Expectations and demands of the employees are of different nature today. However, our processes and systems are set up in a certain way. The whole ecosystem is set up in a certain way, which is supporting, sustaining a certain trajectory of the business. My sense is, and there is, by the way, not only my observation, but a lot of data available which tells us that it's not a temporary phase. It's not going to go away. Organizations will need to have a bold shift or change planned to really make leadership a critical enabler for them to continue delivering in the face of this unpredictability. And this is my sense that those leaders who can thrive in the complexity of this new environment and at the same time inspire people around them will make a big change. And that's where Leadership at Humanity comes in. So we are a set of individuals who are a diverse group of people spread across the globe who have gone through personal life transformation in some way or the other in our own lives and have worked in large global organizations to support scale transformation or change in our careers. Our intention is to work with the organizations to create customized talent and leadership solutions and support them to make this bold shift, which I just referred to. We also intend to work with management institutes and universities to introduce humanity as a part of the core curriculum. I truly believe that the idea of humanity needs to be inculcated or initiated early on as we start thinking of or planning our lives, professional lives. I feel today there is an extraordinary focus on skills and capabilities and very limited investment in building core and capacity, which I will talk about. That's what we intend to introduce in our partnerships with the universities. And finally, my dream is to build a global community which is connected through a shared purpose of leading with humanity. So it's so pleasing for me to see today over 100 people coming together from different countries. We don't know each other. We have never, probably most of us have never met each other, but we have a shared purpose and a shared desire to make a step forward in this direction. And that makes us unique. Imagine a community which can lean on, depend on, connect with each other, and benefit from another good human being who has a similar or same objective to go forward. So I'm really excited about that. These dialogues will continue. We will continue to engage and create these platforms where we invite the thought leaders who help us to move this agenda forward. So what is Leadership at Humanity, or what is our concept or the foundations of our thinking? I believe that people who have a stronger personal core and continue to invest in expanding their personal capacity have a much longer impact and sustainable impact on themselves, on the people who work for them or work with them, on the businesses they represent, and on the society as a whole. And that humanity, if I unfold in terms of what is core and what is capacity, I will talk a little more about that. It's about building that inner strength. So some of you probably are exposed to yoga. I'm sure those of us from India are pretty closely connected with that. In yoga, we talk about core or strengthening the core, which enables you the flexibility then to move your body in any ways, but you stay centered and you keep your kind of stability. Core is exactly like that. I believe this extraordinary focus on skills and capabilities without building and nurturing your personal core and expanding your capacity is like keeping a large body on very weak legs. It's not sustainable, it's wobbly, it will fall down. So the need for building and strengthening core and capacity is more strong or stronger today than ever to make sure that people can thrive in this complexity, in this unpredictability, and continue to make an impact. So this is the foundation of our approach to building humane leadership. I've unfolded further how we are going to do about how we are going to go about that, and very difficult, by the way, to limit the definition of core in few definitions or few labels. However, if I look back my own experiences and those of us who've been part of this community and thinking through about it, I look at there are four critical components for people to have a stronger core in the context of business leadership. So it's very contextual to what makes people thrive in the business leadership and make an impact. The first one is the purpose. How do you really align your personal purpose with that of the organization? To do that, you first need to know what your bigger purpose is. What are you going to go after? Ambition is the intentionality or your conscious effort to fuel what is needed to deliver on that purpose. Your energy is basically your physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional energy, which keeps you going, keeps you invested. And finally, values are your moral anchors. It's like your seat belt, which keeps you protected and protects your reputational and your physical and mental well-being in case of any situations which go off track, making sure that you're doing the right things in the right way. So not actually getting into the details, but my intent is that through these leadership interventions, we will enable people to connect back with their purpose, rekindle their core, and help them nurture and build that core and capacity, which will enable them to have a bigger impact. This is the portfolio of offers which we are trying to build right now as I speak. So we'll have leadership journeys. We will have a talent advisory, which is integrated into the leadership journeys, ensuring that organizations are in a place to build more predictability in their succession plans, and then develop leaders who will be potential leaders for the organization to lead the business agenda. And finally, working with the universities on the educational partnerships to build curriculums in leadership based on humanity. Finally, I want to end with saying that our vision is to create human leaders who have a bigger enhanced value and impact, which is sustainable, which is on themselves, on others, on the businesses they lead, and on a broader universe. If you want to know more, just write to us at leadership@humanity.com, info@leadership@humanity.com, and we will set up an hour conversation with you to walk you through with what this is all about and how we want to go about it. And today, our website is up, which is www.leadership@humanity.com, so you can visit and know more about what we are all about or what we stand for. So very excited. We are ready to kick it off. Something I've been thinking around for a very long time. My partners are very curious. We want to take it off the ground and get it going. And now I will transition over to Isabel to take the conversation forward and come to the real gist of what we wanted to discuss today. So over to you, Isabel.
Thank you very much, Axel. Thank you, and lovely to see you all. And it's nice to see some people I know there too. So thank you very much for coming in this day, which is quite important for all of us. So today, my pleasure is to welcome Mark Mooney. So Mark is a Master Somatic teacher and a Master Somatic Coach. And he's been in that field for over 28 years. He has a unique approach where he's blending a somatic coaching process with a deep ecological conscious, and he calls that ecosomatics. He's been facilitating transformations in organization, leaders, and individuals since 1999. Also, he's a guest in prestigious university in the US and around the world, and has been speaking in various conferences, including the Organization Development Network Conference, ICF Global, and various corporations. He has experience working and facilitating programs in the US, in the UK, in China, and in Singapore, being face-to-face or online. But more important, Mark is somebody I'm very honored to have met a couple of years ago when I was on my journey learning about somatic. And through his wonderful wife, who is on the call, here, Madeline Wade, who has been an amazing guide and influence in my life and in my own personal transformation. So my heart goes to you, Madeline. I can see you there in the middle of the screen. She's also an amazing somatic coach and somatic body worker. So both have been amazing guides and influences, and it's my pleasure to introduce them to all of you. And let's start exploring how somatic awareness and practices are fundamental to us leaders to build our core and capacity so that we can become leaders with humanity, and also understand how somatics can now help all of us in corporation bring leadership development and talent management to the next level. Mark, over to you.
Thank you, Isabel. It was a really very beautiful introduction. I appreciate it very much. Well, thank you for being here today, everybody. It's a real pleasure and honor to be a speaker here today and to be able to share what I have on my mind. And first of all, Isabel, you threw around the word somatics, and so I want to just suggest a definition for that word. And the word somatics comes from the Greek word soma, which means life of the body in its fullness. And that's one of the things I'm going to talk about today in my brief introduction before we get to the questions and answers about what is it to have a body. So the subtitle to today's conversation is, by the way, you have a body. And what does this mean? And I take this right into the conversation of what is it to be a full human being, like a whole human being? That we actually utilize all aspects of who we are and the possibility that we are in leadership, in life, in relationships, really anywhere we go. Some of what I might talk about or suggest might move against some of your sensibilities. And I want to suggest just for today, maybe to relax some of that and just be open to this conversation and where we might lead you and the journey we'll be on. So why a whole body orientation? So most of us are oriented around our thinking. And we consider that's where our power lies. And I can think well, I can rationalize, I can be logical. And that seems to be who I really am. And what I want to suggest, if I think about what somatics, life of the body in its fullness, thinking is just a piece of ourselves. It's just one aspect. And here, a great example of this is that when I have to make a decision, I go through the pros and cons, and they all equal out, and I can't make a decision. What do? Well, I trust my gut. So what exactly does that mean in trusting our gut? So as opposed to it's a thing we go to every once in a while, what if that was part of my ongoing connection to myself? That I am able to listen to my gut, my body, as well as my thinking. So full body orientation, because the thinking is very limited, using our whole body, our intuition, cultivating an energetic sense of myself and what's going on around me becomes more and more important. If we think about what does humanity mean, what does humanness mean, it really means using all of ourselves to further my life goals, to further the ambitions of my organization or my team. Yeah. So body and self are indistinguishable. The basic ground of somatics. Body and self are indistinguishable. So my body and self are all the same thing, rather than somewhere there's a self that's my thinking or that lives somewhere. No, it's all of me. And that I want to define these different aspects, what I mean by that. So the body has a thinking self, it has an emotional self, and it has a sensate self. And so the thinking self, we're all pretty much acquainted with. It's the narratives and stories I live in. It's my ability to be focused, to be logical. Now the narratives and stories are what runs when we're not focused thinking. And the narratives and stories that we run produce the reality that we live in. And these are usually shaped by all of our historical experiences. And it's usually not where we pay so much attention. But what it suggests to us is the world is safe, the world is not safe. I can trust people, I can't trust people. Or any variation in between that. It's not about opposites. So my background thinking really defines myself. Then there's the emotional self, the feeling self. Feeling self has two parts. One is our emotional self, moods, emotions, and then there's the energetic self. It's suggested a lot in the organizational context that you should leave your emotions at home. And I want a show of hands of how many people can do that. Shut your emotions off. Yeah. Well, this brings into focus the possible conversation of self-management. Can I manage my moods? Can I shift my moods if it's required or useful? This is a skill. We're talking about skill sets here, not something that I should be able to do or other people can do and I can't. There's ways to manage ourselves, and we can shift our moods through our bodies. The energetic self. I know there's a lot of people here that are connected to their energetic self. Atul mentioned yoga, lots of different practices. We can connect to our energetic self. Do we just connect to our energetic self when we do yoga? Or can we be connected to our energetic self ongoing, moment, day to day? Take it off the mat, off the yoga mat, and bring it into our life. Our energy actually informs us constantly and informs our actions. Energy that's in our body and our systems is also our connection to the energy that's outside of ourselves, which is basically all the rest of life. Now, this is an important distinction that if we deeply connect to ourselves, we're connecting to the rest of life, which means we're also more able to connect to each other. So we've all kind of had an experience where I meet somebody and instantly it's kind of like, and I don't even know why I do that. I don't even know them yet, but I feel drawn in. On the other side of that is I meet somebody and instantly it's like, And it's like, I get repelled by them. I don't even know why. This is deeply about energy and how we feel and our energy and other people's energy lands on us, which is not a story, could be emotional. Is this a place where we pay attention? So it's important to utilize, if we want to be a full human being and really live our full humanity, it's important to utilize all these different aspects of ourselves, know how they run in us, and understand what parts of it is automatic that make me do these things that I really don't want to do. So I have this phrase, I do this, see if this applies to you. I do this thing, I know I do it, I don't want to do it, but I keep doing it anyway. Show of hands, how many people have, no, you don't have to show your hands there. So there's a way that we can get on automatic. And this has everything to do with our historical shaping. All the experiences we've had up to today produces a certain automaticness in us. And this automaticness also produces what's real. So being able to understand ourselves at this level, to be able to manage ourselves, is part of the key into leadership, into good coordination with other human beings, connection with other human beings. When somebody connects with you, what do you want them to feel about you? What do you want them to have a sense of you? And we can shape ourselves and our energy and manage our moods to a place where how I want to be seen is done on purpose. This is fundamental to leadership. We will follow somebody if they feel right, not just because they have a bunch of good ideas and they seem to know what they're talking about, or they can command leadership. I'll follow if you feel right. And so this requires a certain somatic orientation, a certain ability to connect to ourselves and manage all these different parts to ourselves. I too mentioned core and capacity. So I'm going to speak into that just for a moment. Core is one of the bases of somatics also, is building a strong core. In other words, understanding who I am, really at the deepest levels, understanding what runs me, what really drives me. So I want to give a bit of a somatic orientation to the principles of core. So first is purpose. First question, I've worked with a lot of people around purpose in their life. And the first question is, well, how do you know? You can't think your purpose. Purpose isn't an idea. It's a deep felt sense of who I am and my place in the world, which is underneath all the stuff that happened to me that shaped me. It's underneath, my purpose lives underneath my personality. My purpose lives underneath my personality. So sometimes it takes a deep understanding and knowing of myself on a spiritual level, on an energetic level, to really feel my purpose in the world and then be able to take action around it. Ambition. What does ambition mean? Well, I can get things done. So somatically, I might go resilience. If I fall down, I can get back up over and over and over again. This is not a thought process. This is an embodied skill. Energy. So one of the ways I listen to Atul talking about energy is like I have energy to get things done. So having a lifestyle or a regimen of self-care where I can cultivate my energy. Well, there's also the ability to, if I need to, I can energize myself. If I'm too energized, I can bring myself down. So I can manage my own energy. So it's about endurance, physical, emotional, spiritual endurance. We're talking about skills here. We're not talking about ideas. I want to be clear about this. The skills to understand myself and manage myself. So values. Here's my list of values. Good, I got it all listed on a sheet of paper here. I know all 10 of them. Great. Do I embody them and practice them? You see, we've all seen this in organizations over and over again. Nice chart on the wall. It's got a lot of good ideas, but nobody's doing it. Or we do it here and there. So values want to be embodied. They want to define a set of practices. If I have a value of compassion, how do I practice compassion? Compassion is not an idea. It's a way I move in life. So we're taking the somatic sensibility takes things out of the idea phase and puts it into, well, what's the skill? How do I practice it over time so I become this thing and not just have a good idea about it? So being a human together. I've mentioned some of what that means so far. So if we can really get a sense of somebody, if I can really feel myself and I can feel into somebody else and get a sense of them. In other words, I'm not just back here going, what am I going to say next? What's my next idea? How am I going to look good? But I'm going, who are they? Who am I talking to? I can get a sense of them literally from their shape, from how they feel energetically, the language they're using. So the more I'm connected over there and listening, and I get a sense of like, who is this person over here? I have a better chance of being able to speak into how they listen. And so we can have clearer understanding. Also, if I have an energetic connection, so I'm not just talking over here in this, but I actually have a connection with the other person, I can listen so much more effectively. I can hear so much effectively, and I can understand so much more effectively. So rather than putting on a pretty face, like I'm going to look good, I'm going to be authentic. And if I can manage my mood and manage myself, then I'll probably will look fairly pleasant. But if I'm not having a good time, I'm not going to like sit here thinking I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to actually reflect that. It's like, I'm not sure I like this. So being authentic, how many of us are really willing to have a real self be the foot we put forward rather than I'm going to wear this mask. So being authentic together. A self on purpose, right? So not just good ideas, not just a possibility. It's like, maybe I should do this, but I have a sense of purpose. I know how my history has shaped me. And that core, all those pieces of core go into a particular direction. It has an alignment. And it aligns with myself, it aligns with the organization, it aligns with the group, with the team, whatever I'm in. So how do we bring ourselves fully to all the interactions with people, have an energetic connection for the sake of working well together with other people? So the question you want to ask yourself, your automaticness, all your historical shaping, does this make it easy? Is this easy to do these things? Is it hard to do these things? Are you good at it? Do you care? So how do we shape ourselves to give ourselves the best possibility of being successful, wherever we want to be successful? And this requires that we have a strong connection to ourselves, develop the skills and abilities to self-manage, and that we have the ability to connect to other people. So hopefully I've given you a short sense, a small sense of what it means to have a body, to fully live in our bodies, to fully live our humanity. So I want to do a quick thing here. We're going to do a practice. And I want to suggest everybody join me on this. It's a quick centering practice. I want to reveal something here. So centering ourselves. We all kind of have some sense of what that might mean. So I'm going to run you through a somatic sense of centering very quickly. We're just going to do this from a sitting. So the first thing is sit up straight. So best you can, play this with me. Yeah, sit up straight. So when I sit up straight, what that means is I'm not leaning in. I'm not over relaxed back here. I'm sitting up straight. So my back is straight. So I have a certain alignment. Head's over my shoulders, shoulders over my hips. That's a lot less work if I can just let the top of my body sit right into my pelvic seat, and I don't have to work hard to hold myself up. So I'm straightening myself. Maybe your feet are flat on the floor. Yeah. So first of all, relax. Soften your eyes. Relax your jaw. As I look around, 90% of you need to relax your jaw, which means your teeth aren't touching and your lips are slightly parted. This is the biological design. That's what I'm going through here, is the design of the human body rather than what we've turned out to be. So relax your jaw, teeth aren't touching, lips are slightly parted. Yeah. All this here, get it really tight, 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 tight. Do this, get it tight and let it drop. Yeah, just like coat hanger. Let it drop. Breath, drop your breath into your belly. Relax, relax. You should start to feel a little heavier in your seat. The more relaxed, the more our weight drops. Don't hold your knees tight. Relax your feet, relax your hands. Yeah. At the same time we're relaxing down, we're going to pull up just a little bit. I'm going to connect to something larger, a vision, a goal, spirit, whatever's above me. Now, it doesn't mean I'm overextended. Just put a little air between your vertebrae. Just stand up a little, sit up a little straighter, and relaxing down at the same time. That's length. Now we're going to go for width. Open your peripheral vision so you can see out here. Now consider that you have an aura or you have an energy. Just consider the possibility, and that it's about this big. Now what I want you to do is use your imagination that now you're this big, that your energy field just got bigger. Use your imagination, kind of see it like a bell jar around you. You just got bigger. Peripheral vision's open. Still have my length, still relaxed down. Breath in the belly. I'm a little bit more present now. I can feel my back. I know where I've been. I know what shaped me. I know where I'm going. I have some sense of purpose, some sense of where I'm moving forward, but I'm right here in the middle. I'm not too far back here. I'm not too far up here. I'm somewhere right in the middle. If I'm going to plan for the future, I'm going to do it right here in this present moment. So part of this back to forward also is authenticity. My inner conversations and my outer actions match. How many people do that constantly? Okay, you don't have to show your hand. Okay, length, relax, peripheral vision, energetically I'm wider. I feel my back, I know where I'm going. Breath's in my belly. Now what I want you to do is take one of your hands and put it a couple inches below your belly button, right about at your belt buckle. This is center in the body. Drop your attention to this place. Don't think about this place. Literally put yourself in your body. Put yourself in your body. Keep your length, width. Do this with your eyes open. You want to stay present for this. Yeah. And drop your attention and just feel the space you're in. Notice how it might feel a little different than how you got started when I started this. More expansive, less in your head. It's part of the point. Get out of your head. Feel the rest of yourself. You might feel more of your energetic self here. So you all have a centering practice now. That's it. It's not a difficult practice. But what it is, it's difficult to remember to do it until it's embodied. Yeah, but this is basic. This is the practice when you meet somebody. This is a great state to be in. So this is what we're going to do. So I want you to not be centered for a minute. I want you to be distracted. Think about what most Zoom meetings are like. And I want you not to pay attention, to be distracted on stuff. I'm going to read a short paragraph. Don't pay much attention, get distracted on stuff. So I'm going to read a paragraph here. This is like a meeting, right? Yeah. So don't pay a whole lot of attention, be distracted, whatever. Commitment. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elemental truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sense of things occur to help one that never otherwise would have occurred. A whole stream of events issue from the decision. So I'm gonna hold here. Okay, so that was an uncentered presence, distracted. Get how much of that conversation you may have even heard or not heard. Yeah. Now we're going to do this again. Now center yourself. Drop into yourself. Length, Open that peripheral vision. Now I want you to take this sense of yourself, energetic self, and I want you to move it, use your imagination, move this energy into your camera. Bring yourself into the camera, connect to the speaker, connect to other people, and see the difference if you bring your centered presence into your listening, into how you're in this. You all look different too, by the way, right now. Yeah, so bring your real presence, your attention directly into this. Feel yourself in your seat. Don't lose yourself. And connect energetically to, until one is committed, there's hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and a creation, there is one elemental truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. The moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. Just notice how that conversation may have felt a little different than the first conversation. So this is just a very small example of if you can self-manage and bring all these pieces of yourself together and bring that into your day-to-day connections, that into your meetings, lead from that place, it could be very different. And this is just the bare beginnings of the possibilities of this, of what's possible here if you live this, if you cultivate this in yourself, so that you're actually living it more than you're not. And the challenge here, can you sustain the centered presence more in your life than you're not living it? This isn't like a tip or a technique. This isn't like, oh, I think I'll be centered now because it'd be useful. It's a way of being. It's a way to live life. There's a motto in a place I used to work, in the game of life, you have to be present to win. Not up here, not fantasizing, but like present, right here, living life, connected with everything that's going on around you. And this practice I just suggested, it's one of the beginnings of this. So that's my intro. Oh, by the way, you have a body. We might as well use it. Okay, Isabel, that means you're on now.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, I heard that sentence, so thank you very much. And I was looking at the chat, so there's a lot of interest and recognition for the centering practice. So thank you all. So Mark, maybe the first question that I would like to just revisit with you is, you mentioned earlier in the talk that we have this recurring pattern of, I do the thing, I know I do it, I don't want to do it, and I still keep doing it anyway. Mm-hmm. So how do we move from an idea of change to literally interrupting the pattern and then transforming?
Yeah, great question. Living in the game of transformation for the last 20 some years, I've obviously been studying this for a long time. Change, fundamental sustainable change is not easy. It's a process. It will take time. There's no quick fixes. If anybody tries to sell you the quick fix on personal transformation, do not buy it. You want to think about how long you've been doing what you do, the things that work for you, the things that don't work for you, how long you've been doing them, which is probably in the level of decades. So you've been practicing these things for decades. And you've gotten really, really good at the things that don't work for you, as well as good at the things that do work for you. So if we're going to change this thing or things about ourselves, number one, we have to understand, well, where did this come from? To understand the shaping process. When I say shaping, their shaping of the self also shapes their body. If you look around at adults, every adult has a different shape. That's the shape of the self. So to understand my shaping enough to know, oh, this is where it comes from, which allows me to go, I did not invent this myself. It got put on me. Fundamental to understanding self-development. And then I have a practice to interrupt the old processes, which is, oh yeah, centering. So the centering practice gives you a moment not to be that thing you've done that you don't want to do that you keep doing anyway. It gives you a moment of space. The third part of it is to invent, what do you want to do instead? Not an idea about it, but actually, what are you actually practicing? So you define the practice. How are you going to move? What are you going to say? How am I going to interact? How do I pay attention? So I define the practice, and then I practice it, 3,000 times. Then I might begin to embody the new self. So the bad news is the process of change takes time. One has to be able to commit. Oh, did I just read something about commitment? Oh. So one has to commit to one's change, develop all these qualities of core that we talked about to move, be able to move through that process. And I will guarantee you, I've seen it in Isabel and many, many other people, how significantly we can change if we really put ourselves to it. Now, this also means we can support change in others and we can support change in organizations. It's basically the same process.
Well, now the reaction I'm pretty sure a lot of you had, and I had that every time also I'm in that work, right? It's 3,000 repetition. Oh my God, that sounds like an awful long time with a lot of other things that are going to be happening in my life. So how do I actually stay on track? How do I sustain the energy and the effort that's required to really be able to transform in a sustainable way?
This is the fundamental skill. It's a resilience conversation. This is the fundamental skill. How many times have you started something and then you stopped and, oh my God, I'm probably not good at this, so you just let it drop? Yeah, it's like, that's not the skill we want to develop. We want to develop the skill of like, oh, I did this, it worked or it didn't, or I forgot, and you get back on. It's that coming back to and coming back to. So it doesn't take 3,000 repetitions to get things moving. After a number of repetitions, I might notice it's like, oh, this new action, this new behavior I want to do is actually easier now. But if I stopped here, I'm probably going to go back. So there's an accumulative process that happens. And we get better and better at this thing. And it becomes easier to remember. It becomes easier to do. And before the 3,000 repetitions, it's getting in you. But it's the practice that gets us in gets it in us. And for full embodiment, we do have to get the reps in. But think about centering for a second. Centering process. You know, I can center. What we want to do is get it out of the thought process. So if I'm in this thing and I'm not centered, it's like, oh, centering. And there I am. After a few hundred repetitions, you can probably do that really well. Excuse me. There's no lack of opportunity to center. Just while I've been answering this question, you could have practiced centering 6 or 7 times. If you practice centering, I don't know, I have a client who got very ambitious and practiced centering 50 times a day. Okay, there's reasons that didn't work as well as it could have. And I have clients that go, oh, I'll do it twice a day. So let's do the math. Twice a day. Okay, you embody centering in about 3 years. Yeah. So when you walk, practice centering. When you get up and make yourself a cup of tea, practice centering. When you walk to the office, going from my desk to their desk, practice centering. I'm in the middle of working, take a little break, think about something, practice centering. Every new behavior has multiple opportunities every day to practice. So you can get your reps in fairly quick if you put the attention to it. You have resilience, you have focus, you have commitment to your change. Let me say that again, commitment to your change. If you're committed to it, you will practice. If you practice, you will change. You don't even have to like what you practice. If you practice, you will change.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. And I just see the comment of Mark, Murphy on the chat. Stay in the present is only what you have to do to make that makes the change, and then the days add up, right? Now let me just shift gear a little bit, just so that we cover another angle, and then we'll go to the Q&A from the group, because there's a lot of interest on the chat. Why is that relevant to organization? the corporate, the non-profit, the academic, whatever. This is usually a world where there's a KPIs, profitability, performance assessment, objective. Why is all of what you've talked about relevant to us today in the corporate world?
Yeah, well, it doesn't have to be. We choose to have it relevant. And if we look at the way the world's working today, and really has worked for like, I don't know, forever. If we look at the way people organize, generally, there's not a whole lot of interaction with each other. We can even stand right next to each other and not even really notice each other. When I say that, it's because what I got to say or what they have to say is so important that I miss this. So first of all, it's a quality of the experience of life. If I'm present and I'm really in the experience of my life in the moment, I'm going to enjoy myself a lot more. I'm going to be fulfilled and satisfied in my life a lot more. If I'm really paying attention, I can catch things that may otherwise just go, that may be really important to go, hang on a second. Let's talk about what just happened. Let's talk about what you just said. With the whole COVID pandemic and everything, and a lot of us working like this, there was a long time we had very little human interaction, right? Separated from each other. It's fundamental that human beings connect with each other. Relationship is absolutely fundamental to humans. So how do we do that if this is the venue? And I would suggest to you, you can. I mean, right now, connect into your screen, connect to Isabel. She's at what's in it. If I'm in the front here, extend and connect to me. Oh, now that feels nice. Thank you all. It happens just in that moment there where we can actually feel each other. We're not in the office together, but it's like, here we are. We're actually together. Human beings to human beings. I mean, how do you want to play in life? Oh yeah, we got to get this done. Yeah, you'll take this on, good. Yeah, you'll take that on, great. Okay, let's all get to it now. Or let's be human beings together. And we'll still get the work done, and we'll have more fun, and we'll actually do a better job. So it's the background of everything that we do is about how we're together. Not just that we're doing these things, it's how we're together. And if you want to get things done and you have that level of connection, boy, it happens so much easier. You can catch so many possible mistakes so much faster. So much more is possible if you have the human connection rather than let's get a bunch of tasks done.
Yeah. So can I jump in there? There's a question which I think is relevant that was asked on the chat. In your opinion, does humanity in leadership bring less requirement and less expectation towards employees, or differently?
Ask me that one more time.
Do you believe that having more humanity in our leadership may actually diminish the expectation you have from employees? Is that and I think, Jerome, that's you. If I'm not representing you well, just jump in and you can unmute if you want to.
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Isabel.
Okay, good. So one of the things here is around, well, if I start becoming more human as a leader, am I going to be able to actually drive for performance as the corporation is expecting me to do that?
That's a great question.
Or am I going to soften a little bit too much, right, Jerome? That's what you're trying to get to. Yeah.
Now I could develop a human side where it's just like, are you okay? Are we all right here? It's like, it's happening. And then we don't get anything done, right? Because it's too much about all this. That's not the right shape of it. That's not what we're talking about. Yeah, it's about the ability to manage myself with the expectation that you're managing yourself too. I don't have to take care of you, but I do have to be a good person with you. Have to. I choose to be a good person with you. It actually smooths things out. And if I develop a certain set of skills about coordination skills, balance my being and doing, this is part of the key here, that I'm really effective at the doing part. I know how to lead. I have a kind of presence, centered presence that attracts people to me. They want to follow me. and I can connect with you in a very authentic kind of way, with your dignity and integrity intact and my dignity and integrity intact, we're going to get more work done better. So it's not about being overly accommodating or giving people too much slack or let myself be run over. It's none of that. It's like stepping into our power, which means being effective, being a full human being, and helping each other be full human beings will actually do better. The organizations that I've worked in, that I've done this work with them, boy, they start to zip along. There's much less do-overs. If I need to have the hard, difficult conversation, I can do it because I can do it well. I've embodied that skill of entering into the fiery, difficult conversation and telling you, well, you didn't do a really good job here. We need to talk about this. But my manner in it invites the other person into the conversation so we can resolve it rather than we fight about it. That kind of thing.
So I'm going to pick on that because, you know, in previous conversation, there's that very important point about leaders define the game. And what we want as leader is that people move towards us and move with us in the direction that we have fixed. So now when we are going to, you know, on this call, we have people interested in the topic and I see the chat being super active. Now the question is, how do we start approaching senior leaders, CEO, colleagues, without making them feel that what they have been doing so far is wrong? How do we invite them in the conversation so that they can also really embrace that movement we're trying to create around leadership and humanity?
Well, one has to understand that no matter what you do, you will not always be successful. That's one of the things one has to accept, that my best efforts at trying to get Isabel to move and live in a certain kind of way, there may be something in her is like not going to happen. Of course, that's not Isabel, but we all run into people like that. It's like nothing's going to happen here, and that's part of what we have to accept. I mean, how long are we going to beat our head against the wall? Yeah, it's about being an invitation to a possibility. Now that sounds kind of like lofty. Being an invitation, the self is an invitation. The best way that I can invite somebody to be different is be the difference. Be the change that I want to make. So I invite that other self to play. When I say play, not like goofy and this kind of thing, but to play the game of like, can I offer you something here? Well, I don't know. What is it? It's like, well, you know, I've been noticing a way that you've been, you know, working with people that I don't know if it really serves your best interest. Oh, what do you mean? Well, you know, that thing you did with so-and-so the other day, I noticed is like they had a big reaction to you. And afterwards, I have to tell you, they were not happy. It was almost like you were fighting with them. I'm curious, is that really what you want to do? Kind of see how I'm oriented here? I'm inviting somebody to be in a conversation in a way that takes care of their concerns, not mine. It helps them fulfill their concerns, what's important to them, better. So that's one kind of orientation. It's all about like, who is this person in front of me? And like, what do I sense and see and feel about them that I can offer them that's going to help them be better in the way they want to be better? And like I said, that that won't always work, because some people will never listen, will never be open to the possibility or other possibilities. Their way is the only way, and you won't make any headway there. And there's going to be some organizations that you want to make a change in, and it's like, it will not be possible. They just won't do it. So we have to understand that piece. It doesn't mean we shouldn't try. It doesn't mean we shouldn't put our best effort in. but it's the invitation, our ability to assess situations well, to ground those assessments in what's observable, to offer those assessments in a good way that creates a listening because it's connected to what's important to the person or the organization that I'm speaking into.
So here, and I think the last question before we move on to becoming an invitation to the Q&A, right, Atul? I see you there giving me a little signal. But maybe just quickly an important distinction you're making here, which is around fighting for something versus fighting against something. So being in those organizations, and how do we understand that difference as we're trying to make changes?
Yeah, this is a good place to look inside yourself, your own way you've been shaped. Because we all have an automatic, under pressure, under stress, we all have kind of an automatic reaction. And it's part of the fight or flight thing. So biologically, fight or flight, psychologically, we'll move away. That's kind of the flight part. We'll acquiesce, we'll push against, or we'll freeze. This is under a lot of pressure. We could all do any one of those things, but usually one of them we do more than the others. So I'm a move away person, I'm a fight person and fight against person, or I always go, yes, whatever you need, can we all just get along? So what is it that I want to be? So if I do my own work and my automaticness is a push against, it's like, so my wife and I have this whole thing, we work with a lot of couples about defending and explaining. So somebody says there's the smallest little remark, about, that color is not good. Well, I think it's a good color. And how fast we go to that. How fast we go to explain it. So, well, I didn't mean to do it. Right there, we're pushing against. And it's so automatic with people to defend and explain rather than, well, why do you say that? To be curious. Now I'm inviting the conversation, I'm working with, and I'm fighting for a different outcome rather than fighting against something that happens. If I have a good, deep, solid core, I know my values, I know my purpose, I'm fighting for that, not against something else that's happened. So everybody do this, put your hands together, just like this. Now push with your left hand. What's your right hand doing? Pushing against. Is so easy for us, it's so in us as humans in our biology to want to push against. It's just skill to cultivate something that goes, how do I move with? How do I blend with this situation? So I had 25 years in a martial art of Aikido. It's all about how do I move with the incoming? How do I move with what comes at me, not push against it? As soon as you fight, you've lost.
Thank you, Mark. And so with this, let's show some curiosity to our audience. Atul, open the floor for Q&A. And do you want to tell us how long we have?
Yeah, well, we have probably another 10 minutes, I would say.
Okay,
I'll need a minute at the end to close it. But I think it's such an engaging conversation, and I'm seeing the dialogue box. It's full of comments and questions, Mark. My sense is, by the way, not only you make it relevant, I think that when we talk about leadership at Humanity, we talk about personal code and connecting with yourself. And I think you kind of explained it in such simple, easy way that we could not only connect with what we are saying, but could practice it a little bit and touch it, what it means for us. So big thanks to you. I think I'm going to pull up probably one or two important questions that I think those need answers. Yeah. One which resonates with me a lot, and I'm paraphrasing Andy. He made a comment which really was was going on in my head, which is, you mentioned about, Mark, we know we are doing something wrong. We continue to do that, being aware of that this is not what I want to do. In the same breath, I want to talk about your experience of building behaviors or repeating behaviors. So this pattern of doing things over and over again could be emotion numbing. You kind of numb your mind. You continue doing it more mechanically over a period of time. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And is it enough to make that change? I mean, if it is, in the negative context, as you explained, you're doing things, those are not right, you still continue to do those. So if you're just practicing and doing stuff, can it be emotion numbing in the sense that you can't change, or is there something more to it which is needed to change the habits?
Well, everything's in context. So this is an important thing to remember. I'm not changing just because it's a good idea. I'm changing because it's important for my ambition. It's important for my purpose. It's important for my family. It's important for me because I don't like how I'm moving in the world. So there's a level of it's important to me because if I want to do this change, it's important to me because. So every time it starts to get a little rote or I get tired of doing it, that's where you want to go. Have a very compelling story of why this change is important to you, what it means in your life and your future, how it connects to purpose and vision and ambition, and remind yourself that over and over. We're not used to, in most of our cultures, most societies today in the modern world, we're not good at the notion of mastery. If you want to get really good at something, you want to master something, you got to think decade, right? You're not going to think music, think sports, think dance, think martial arts. It's like, do it for a week, you're going to be good. It's like, probably not. So what we're talking about here is mastery of the self. You want to commit and expect you're going to be in it for the long haul, and that you will fall down, you will forget, you will make it rote for a while. Can you get back on, recommit, and re-energize? Re-energize, if we're connected more to our energetic self, we can re-energize. So it's in a context. And if it's not in a context, yeah, it'll probably fall off pretty quick.
Got it. No, that's a great response. I have another question, Isabel, and then I'll hand it over back to you, which is from Hena Inam, who had to leave the session. But I thought this question was very relevant and kind of resonated, Mark, with a lot of us when she brought it up. And the question is, most of the challenges and issues we are faced with today are collective problems or collective issues. So we are dealing, in the context of organizations, but also in our personal lives, there is a multiple facets to that situation. So how do we transform or harness the energy you talked about, the energy of me, or me as an individual, our core, into the energy of we, or a collective energy, which will help us to deal with those issues or situations, which, by the way, plays between my core and capacity in some ways. How do we engage everybody around what you want to change?
Well, first of all, kudos to you, Atul, for doing this, because this is what you're doing. Yes. It goes back to being the invitation. So if I can develop a compelling narrative that connects with what's important to others, like survival on the planet, it might be a concern of all of us. If I can develop a compelling narrative and invite you into this narrative in a way that fits in your life and your sensibilities and the things that are important to you, and I have a self that people go, hey, this person has something, rather than you should, right? That's the push against, rather than, hey, what if we invite people into possibilities? And not everybody's going to play. I mean, we have to realize that too. We can invite whoever we want. Not everybody's going to want to play. But making it compelling in the narrative, in the energetic sense, that here's a group of people that are alive and they're connected to the rest of life and they're connected to each other. It's like, I'm kind of going, who wouldn't want to play there? But not everybody will. So you gather the players that want to play, and it gets bigger and it gets attractive because, you're looking, it looks a certain way, it feels a certain way, it's having results in a way that benefits all of us. This is one of those things that's not real definable,
Yeah.
it has an energy to it. And the collective can produce an energy together if the individual energies start to align.
It's great. That's very helpful. So Isabel, I think we are in the last stretch. If you have any last question, otherwise I'm going to close with the next steps.
Yeah, just checking on the audience if anybody has a burning question they want to bring forward, or happy to have you unmute. Okay, last call. No, so good. So look, what I just want to do is summarize some of the key messages, the key takeaway that we want to have all of us take away from that session, as we just skim the surface of that rich world of somatics, right, Mark?
Right.
The first key takeaway or message we would like you to all take away is that we are so much more than just our thinking. We have, and I like my friend, I think Mark, who is on the call, said to me once, it is not because you said something to yourself that you have to believe it either. So, we are so much more about our thinking and the story we run. The other key message, right, Mark, is to evolve. We really want to learn how to make intentional use of our humaneness, because it is in each and every one of us. But it's about that intentional use. We need to purposefully practice over and over again so that we can sustain the transformation. And that's the real challenge. How do we build the capacity? And that's back to our tools model. This is all about the core, but then how do we build a capacity so that we can stay in the process of change long enough, Mark, as you said, that we start embodying a different self, but also long enough that we are able to bring other people along and create the movement you're talking about. And finally, fundamental to our humaneness, is the ability to connect to life and all aliveness that is in beings around us, so that we can truly be fully human. Mark, anything else you want to add?
That was a great recap there, Isabel. Thank you for that. And I want to thank you and Atul for the opportunity to speak to you all today. It was a pleasure.
And Atul, over back to you. Thank you, everybody, for your attention, and thank for the amazing participation on the chat box. Atul, over to you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Isabel. Mark, a big thanks to you. I mean, you made it sound so easy and so lucid in your conversation. I've read a lot of stuff on your website around this, and I can tell you the way you just articulated and made it so easy to absorb and simple, it just helps us to be committed to it and make sure that we use and leverage this conversation to improve who we are. So a big thanks to you, Isabel. Great partnership. I so appreciate not only what you did today, but what you continue to do to move this or take this movement forward. Thanks very much. And thanks everyone. I mean, this is a big gift of your time you gave to us this morning. Important session for us. We are committed to make this change happen. And I know that we will make the difference, and we need your sponsorship. We need your partnership. You will continue to get these invites for these future conversations. And I look forward to an ongoing dialogue. So have a wonderful weekend, and thanks again.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. And thank you for all the chat messages. Thank you.
We'll be sharing the recording with you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.